variables on both sides. So we're told to solve each of these and then we'll graph the solutions. It's sort of multi-step but not crazy. So here I have 5p plus 7 is greater than 6p. And if I were to change the color of my inequality symbol, I can see that there's variables on both sides. Now, these are sort of multi-step, like I said, and I always like to avoid having a negative in front of my variable. And also in the previous videos, I said these are just like equations. But I'm going to avoid subtracting 6p, because if I subtract 6p, I'll end up with a negative over here, and that means that I'm likely to have to divide or multiply by a negative, and that's going to only increase the likelihood that a mistake will be made. I'll subtract 5p from both sides, leaving me with 7 is greater than p. And like we've talked about, it's better to say p is less than 7, and here I'm reversing the direction because I'm just saying the statement in the opposite direction. Well, that means that 5 times 7 would give me 35 plus 7 would give me 42. So I can just lightly write that off to the side of a paper. And then 7 times 6 would give me 42 over here. So that change point's good. And the other thing, too, is I can try a number like 0, which would drop this term out, leaving me with only 7, and 7 is greater than 0. You'll always want to check these. Setting up a number line, here's 0. Here's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's 6 and 7. And at this time I actually did bother with the tick marks because we're dealing with numbers that are not so outrageous like 58. And since they're not so ridiculous and it's just 7, I think I can make a number line from 0 to 10 with making decent use of my time and not getting out of control. Now I think these are straightforward enough to where you should pause the video and make problem 2 an OYO problem. I'm going to put the answers up in just a moment. Give yourself a second to see if you got everything I have and it's mostly accurate. And let's do some checking of this. Well, 9 times negative 1 gives me negative 9. Minus 1 ends up being negative 10. 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. So that pivot point's good. And hopefully it's clear what I mean by pivot point now. I think plugging in 0 works well enough. So that drops out, leaving you with just negative 1. And then negative 1 is less than 0. But sometimes that's confusing for some people, so if I try a very large number, well, subtracting 1 from a billion doesn't matter, and 10 billion is definitely bigger than 9 billion. Same deal as problem 2. The third one is going to be an on-your-own problem. Here I have less greater than, here I have less than, and here I have less than or equal to. So there's going to be a slight difference, and make sure you don't make a mistake there. I'll put the answer up in just a few. I won't talk through checking what happens when you plug in 12, but you do get 60 is equal to 60, and it is shaded in so you know you're good there. 0 drops out this term, 0 is less than 12. So I think as long as you feel comfortable with this, we'll move on. Now before we read this one, let's go ahead and cross out this Chachina and put Alina. A-L-I-N-A, if that matters to you. So this is probably less about the actual math and more about just the structure and length of the word problem. So we'll probably get to the end of this and it'll be maybe straightforward. But the fact that there's complicated names to say and a lot of words and paragraphs, a lot of sentences to read, usually makes it kind of different or difficult. So it says Olympics, Irina Chachina. So let's just call her IT. IT scored a total of 107.325 points in the 4 events of rhythmic gymnastics. Alina scored a total of 81.3 in the club's hoop and ball events. How many points did she need to score in the ribbon event to get ahead of Chachina? And again, who is this girl? Well, this is IT. And win the gold medal. Come up with an equation, solve it, and graph it. Well, you kind of have to navigate this. Well, there's 4 events, and here this other girl scored, they gave her score for 3 of them. So that means that this score is only part of the total event score she'd get. So I know that Alina has 81.3. Now, even though there's 0, 0 in there, we can just write 81.3. She has 81.3 points so far, but she has one more event remaining. And apparently that event is the ribbon event. So we'll say, well, 81.3 plus R, that'll give her her total score. Now she wants to get ahead of Chachina. So if we said equals, that's not enough. And it's also not to say, like, we don't want her to tie, so we're not going to say her score is going to be greater than or equal. Her score has to be greater than the 107.325 points that IT scored. So this means that the new girl's score would have to gain more than what the old girl scored. So, I don't know, I think that it's kind of easy to solve now. That part's straightforward. But it's the creation of the problem that's the difficult part. I think if I am not making a mistake, this ends up being 26.025. So she has to score more than 26.025 points in the ribbon event. And they don't really tell us to explain that, but these being word problems, it's kind of good to be thorough there. So, if I look at this, we're still incomplete. We need a little bit of a number line. Here's 0. Here's 50 maybe, and 25. And she needs to be a little bit better than that, so we'd have an open circle and an arrow to the right. That's what it would look like if we graphed it. Now this word problem is not quite as intimidating. And because of that, I'm going to make this an OYO problem, and I will put the answer up in just a couple moments. But here's the deal. Yeah, you can totally answer this without much inequalities, but try to set this up as an inequality instead of just giving the answer, because that's what we want to practice. So here's my answer. He's going to, spend some money on jeans. I guess I should probably use a better variable than T, especially since I think I did that too quickly. So here's jeans. So the jean cost plus the 18 and 14, and then you combine like terms on the left, so that's all you can put together. And then you get jeans are less than $33. Now let's pretend you get to the book and it's like, well, no more than 33. That's fine. That's like the same thing. They're saying, well, he can't spend any more than $33. And for problems like this, unless you're told to think about it, we're ignoring tax. So don't sweat that. Think about it. Here's the assignment that goes along with 6.1. And other than the word problems, those practice problems should be pretty straightforward.